Happy Monday, Cross Church family, and welcome to another Elder Devotional with me, Brandon Bowen. As always, I pray that this message finds you healthy and blessed and ready to take on another week. We are going to navigate some tricky waters today. If you recall, some time ago I spoke on the fear some of us might have about current events, kind of a 30,000 foot level of modern life, and how bad news always seems to be on the news, and how we don't need to fear those things. But, it's always full of war and disease and horrible crimes, deadly accidents, political turmoil, natural disasters, et cetera, just on down the list. It's always full of horrible things to hear, and it kind of runs the gamut of those things. You get 28 minutes of death and destruction, and it's followed by 2 minutes of a sunshine and rainbows story. And, if you're an optimist, that might look like even the secular world knows that light trumps darkness in the end. And I wish I could be convinced of that 2 minutes does trump the 28 minutes prior to it. But myself, I'm more of a realist. And I know the disproportionate amount of airtime is because tragedy and controversy are what sell. Don Henley even said so. It's just too much, and it's deflating to the point of injury. And, honestly, in our house, we might watch the national news. We might watch it once every couple weeks, maybe. Just simply because of that fact that it is so deflating. I'm not saying that we should stick our head in the sand and not remain vigilant. We should always know what's going on, especially as Christians. But we just shouldn't fixate. When we immerse ourselves in such negativity, I think it often leads to cynicism. But I'm not just blaming the nightly news for all the negativity surrounding us. We, and myself especially, we can always seem to find more than enough right here at ground level that's going on, things that are negative, things impacting our lives. Plenty trickles into our personal lives from sources much closer to us than what you might see on the national news, things that are personally impactful. And, before we know it, we start looking around and we see issues everywhere. We disagree with this or we find fault with that, what have you. And the next thing you know, we have a bleak outlook on everything, becoming cynical, resentful, bitter, toward issues in our homes, our workplace, or even elsewhere, among our friend groups, wherever. And sometimes we can let our self-righteous indignation find a way to just rage out of control because we've left it unchecked. And I know I'm certainly not immune. It is a very part of my sinful nature, literally. What I mean by that is some years ago, we were in a Bible study with Cousin Jerry, and you can blow up Daniel's DMs about who Cousin Jerry is. Make sure you grill him. But in this Bible study, we led off with doing the Briggs-Myers personality test, which kind of tells you everything about who you are, the pros and the cons and all that stuff. And I ended up being an acronym that's ESTJA. Now, don't ask me what those letters stand for. I don't remember anymore. But I know that the heading it fell under was called the executive, which I always thought was kind of funny, because while that may sound like grand or important, like it's a mega title there, it's really not. Because I'll tell you right now, I can't get anybody to follow instructions. I'm like Bill Murray. I can't even make a collie stay. And if you get that reference, text me. But it also comes with strong convictions, this personality type, about what is right and wrong and socially acceptable. And sometimes those convictions are kind of to a fault. So if any of you have seen the Friends episode where they're trying to get a couch up a flight of stairs, this is where we pivot. On one hand, Are we simply perceiving a problem and making it out to be bigger than it is? Or is there a legitimate concern? How can we tell the difference and avoid confrontations that are unnecessary? How can we make sure that we are trying to advance what we are trying to advance is in alignment with what he says is right? How do we avoid becoming like those in Jude 1:16? Well, let's turn to what the word says, and I'll be reading from Philippians 1:9 through 11. And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. To me, the key thing here is discerning and discernment, which is the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, truth and false, and to make wise and spiritually sound decisions. You see, it's not just understanding an issue or a point of view or what's going on, but I think it goes further than that. And discernment shows us the solution if we submit to his leading. Recently, I've been listening to some podcasts, and I've come across a man named Eddie Penny, who was a SEAL Team 6 member, a member of Development Group, as they call it now, and who has found his way to Christ over the years. And he talks about standing up in love as warriors for Christ, and to get in the fight, to set things right. And when he says, stand up in love, the standing up in love is the most key thing here, I think, because it says it right out of the gate here in verse 9, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight. So first and foremost, we have to come from a position of love, even when we have to call things out. But we do it in love, not self-righteous indignation. And in that love, we can provide any number of things. If the situation is serious, admonition, as Romans 15:14 and Colossians 3:16 suggest, is totally on the table. But we can also counsel, or we can just provide a shoulder to somebody who's needing that kind of advice and counseling, and just someone to listen to them. Or on the flip side of that, God may ask us to just step aside and have him step in and do what he does. He may say, hey, you can either be a vessel that acts out what I need you to, or I need you to just get out of the way. But whatever we do, we must always approach it with not just the right intentions, but approach it according to his word, his glory, and only at his request. We cannot make frivolous decisions, based solely on what we want to accomplish, our selfish desires get in the way, or how we'd like to be perceived because we don't think things look quite the way we want them to, and we want to be seen as something that maybe we're not, or maybe that we're working on being, but we're just not quite there yet. And we must examine ourselves and our motives to the fullest degree, and above all, hit our knees in prayer and search his word. That is where the truest discernment could ever come from, that wisdom that we gain from seeking his face. And additionally, don't forget, we always have the precious resource of one another. That is why we're referred to as a body. We are all one together. We are spiritually linked. And when we are frustrated, confused, or directionless, there is no shame in confiding in one another as Christians. In fact, the Bible instructs us to do so. And we must remember we were not made to face things alone. In light of that, I will leave you with Proverbs 1:5 today. And let this fall on you and and just give you something to think about throughout the week. But Proverbs 1:5 says, "Let the wise listen and add to their learning, and let the discerning get guidance." So even this discerning need guidance. Think about that for a minute. Even the most wise need guidance. And so if you want that wisdom and you want to know what to do in tricky and sticky situations that you just don't know what else to do, hit your knees, get in prayer, get in the Word, confide in one another, and most of all, listen to Him. Listen to God's will, and He will tell you what He is asking of you, whether it's get in the fight or get out of the way. Love you, Cross Church. You all have a great week. Thank you.